So each week we welcome to our NfG stage one of our very talented members or special guests and special guests to tell us about what they do in order that we can focus on what we do better. Well, this week we've got a very special guest with a career that spans 20 years and has worked in various corporate management and business development roles, including CEO, IT manager, business development manager, business relationship manager, and project manager, and now focusing on building business networks and growth. Facilitates over 600 business networking events every year. As part of a series on coping with change, I bring to you Lorraine Garvie.
We're going to do something a bit different this week. I'm actually going to interview Lorraine and talk about her various trips. One of the first things, of course, Lorraine, is that you're definitely not from Australia, albeit you are from Australia. Tell us a little bit about kind of what took you to Oz.
Oh, it's the good old story. A man brought me to Oz. I met an Australian in Scotland. He lived with me in Scotland for a year, and then he had to get out of the country because he was there illegally. And it was make or break for me. I had to come with him at that time. I think I was 31, and that was the cut-off time for a working holiday visa. So I took the jump with him, and yeah, we fought for a year or two. He went his way and I went mine. So yeah, the good old romance gone wrong story brought me here. But I decided to, I'd given everything up in Scotland, so I decided to stay here and see a bit of Australia before I went back. My plan was to go back, and my plan was to go back for 10 years. Every day I said I was going back. I think that might have been my safety net in case things didn't work out here, but yeah, every day I said I was going back for years and years and years. And yeah, then just one thing leads to another, an opportunity presents itself, you change paths, you get comfortable, and yeah, and I've now been here for 16 years.
Fantastic. So you and I met through Paul Dunn. Most people on here will be aware of Paul, and he put us together because of the network you grew and have grown in Perth. One of the things that struck me when I had a meeting with you earlier this year was actually how you pivoted your business and how you changed your whole business model. Do you want to just tell us a little bit about what it is that you've done it and why you've done it?
Yeah, so when I started out wanting to coach, wanting to help people, and I was a business coach, and I used to specialize in strategic marketing and positioning, and I loved that. And what I used to do was, my main revenue was from one-on-one clients, and I would do quarterly training workshops for guests and for my clients. And I started running, I'm a doer, I'd be online just the same as everybody else saying, how do you get new clients? How do you grow your client base? And networking would just come up all the time. So I created my own networking group and that was a free networking group, but that was where most of my leads came from. And I did that very successfully for a few years. I loved it. I think it was back in the boom when it was really easy here. You just had to show up and make some money at that time. But I ended up, I'm not sure about these stories I'm telling today. I got myself pregnant at age 40. Right, so I had built my business, or built what I thought was my business. I was making decent amounts of money. I had clients. I had this nice model, and then I had a baby. And I knew then that I needed a business that would work without me, rather than a job. So what I'd created for myself was a really well-paid job, and it wouldn't work without me. So I had to transform that business model. So the networking became the scalable aspect, and then all of my skills, knowledge, and experience in business coaching and development then fed through that. So there's now education at every one of our networking events. But that was it was really, really hard because I just didn't have any comprehension of. I was really, really lucky when I started coaching. I got up to a really I had no problem finding clients or revenue, and that part was easy. And then all of a sudden I went to try and build this scalable business. And as you know yourself with networking events, or anybody else in there with that one-to-many model or a group scenario, you know, you need to just keep building and building and building. And sometimes, you know, they're leaving faster than you build, with all these different circles and locations. So it was just the lesson from that was, I just didn't realize how hard business was going to be.
Yeah.
Well, that was the realization that I had. But the big lesson from that now is that I now have a business that doesn't rely on me, that will work without me. And I am definitely in the right business, in the people business. Because when COVID hit us all, it was through our relationships that we managed to generate revenue. Because we stopped, all sales stopped, networking events, sales stopped completely for us, came to a halt. So it was through our partnerships and our connections and the relationships that we got together with other people for joint venture partnerships to then generate lots of revenue in that time. And so we've now got another company that was generated based on the back of COVID. But to do a bit of a SWOT analysis on the back of that, we realized our greatest strength was the relationships that we had. Because when you take away everything else, you take away the venues and take away the model and just take everything away, and with the pandemic, the one thing that we had left was who we know, and that was a big network of people and relationships.
Wow. Can you just go and give us a scale then of actually what it is you've built? Because I mean, you've done this around 2015.
Yep. So we started off just, you know, in the first year it was just one circle. So we had one circle of members in a geographical area, and now we've got 3 tiers of membership and 17 circles.
Wow.
And they all meet fortnightly, face-to-face meetings. But it takes time, you know. It takes a long time to even to get to that stage. But we're now in a really, really good place, and I think we've got nearly 400 members in that time. So it's a membership subscription model. So people you know, join us for 12 months, and then they meet fortnightly for the whole year.
So are you still meeting face to face now?
We've been back to face for a while, because we went online really, really quickly. Right at the very start, we seen what was happening in the rest of the world, and we decided to take action based on that rather than wait until it came here. So we were online really quickly, and then I think we were only online meetings for about 11 weeks, so just shy of 3 months, and then we went back to small groups of under 10. Then right away it was back to under 20, and now we're pretty much open for everybody. So for us it was business as usual, pretty much after that 3 months period. And the knock-on effect of that was some people were a bit hesitant on like memberships to anything, because they're looking for some security that it's not going to happen again, or we weren't going to have a second wave coming. But ultimately, Perth, Australia, and Australia as a country, because they've handled the hard border and the soft border thing. I know Victoria was a different scenario there, but here in Perth, we're just this back end of nowhere and little protected place, and most business owners are tired here from the amount of work that they've got. So businesses here are really flourishing, they're growing, they can't get staff, they can't cope with the amount of work that's coming in. And that's not to say that the hospitality industry obviously taking a hit, but all the other industries are having massive growth spurts. So it's been a real gift in some ways for businesses here. Businesses have gone online and gone through the roof. They've looked for other avenues. Yes, it's just a real growth phase here.
Excellent. So just take us back to obviously that you had to make a major change in your business, and it's almost kind of forced upon you through obviously those circumstances. Looking back now, kind of what's the, if somebody here was then, obviously, you know, we're all faced with major change at the moment. Our businesses are changing. What's the kind of the big 2 or 3 big things that you'd go, these are the things you've got to get in place, you know, how, or the mindset you've got to have to make those changes?
To make the changes through COVID, or just your business?
Yeah, to kind of, what's the mindset that you have to have, or what are the things that the big challenges you need to have to go to change that business model quite dramatically that you did?
Also, the business model in the beginning, I guess that's the same as everybody here in the room, right? Everybody's entrepreneurs, and I loved your introduction at the beginning. You know, you're here because we're all entrepreneurs, we're all ambitious, we get excited. And that is, I guess it's the entrepreneur's mindset. You know, you'll do what it takes.
Yeah.
And it's just, okay, well, that's not working, so how will it work? You know, entrepreneurs, or typically the entrepreneurs that I meet or the business owners that I meet, you know, we don't come up against the wall and then quit. You know, it's, well, how do I make this work? And then I think opportunity comes a knocking when you start to ask yourself different questions, or more open questions, rather than saying this is not working, but how can this work? As soon as you start voicing those questions, the universe sorts in such a way that you end up meeting the people who have got the answers for you, or the opportunities for you, or a business opportunity will arrive in your doorstep that you could never have, you know, foreseen before. But I guess it just comes down to you just don't quit. It's like, how do we get through this? And it was the same in changing that business model as it was for COVID. You know, it's like, okay, what else can I do? How can I spin? If your cash flow is an issue, well, how do I make money while I park this? You know, what's the resources available? It's just that entrepreneur's mindset. It's what's next? How can I make this possible? Yeah,
it's really interesting because it is that mindset. But the tough part is, if we're absolutely honest, is that you can, particularly if you get stuck down a rabbit hole yourself and you're trying to hide yourself away from it, is that it can very easily become so overwhelming that you can't see those opportunities. And having that entrepreneur mindset, it still needs to be refreshed and what's the right word? Kind of stimulated, I suppose, to actually keep that mindset open. And I think you touched it, where one of the biggest things that helped you was your network.
It is your network, and it's the conversations that you have. I'm a big believer in, well, you all know the studies are, you know, we're the average of the 5 people that we hang around with. So if you look at your wealth, your fitness, your relationships, we are the sum of those 5 people that we hang around with. So if you're in a room, in a business environment, or a networking environment, or mastermind group, or wherever you are, or if you're not part of any of those, look at the 5 people you're hanging around with and ask yourself, are you the smartest person in the room? Because if you're the smartest person in the room, you're in the wrong room, right? So when we realize we're in the wrong room and we move into another space where, you know, there's people who are further on in business, they've got different levels of thinking, they're really positive mindset, then it's through conversations. And again, as I said, I think I said that in my 60 seconds, actually, it's in a big part that's missing in strategic, or that's included in strategic planning, but is often missing in small business, is the who do you need to meet? Who is it? You get stuck in your business because you haven't met who it is that you need to meet to either open a door, to be a mentor, to be a service provider, whatever it is. But if you think back on your business life, I've got example after example after example. I had this conversation with this one person that transformed my business. I then, through this person, I joined this mastermind who gave me access to this tools, who transformed my sales. Then, and I'm not talking about any customers here when who I meet. These are people who are holding me to a higher standard of thinking. And that's where opportunities come a knocking, and that's where your mindset's kept running all the time. Because if you're not the smartest person in the room, you're always on the back pedal, so you're pedaling faster, right? And that keeps your mindset going. But yeah, the network, the relationships that we had got to say, look at the people in the room and say, is there something we can do together? You've got a product, we've got the network. How can we put those two together to generate some revenue in that time? And we partnered with a digital marketing agency. Now, they had the best product, training for digital marketing lead generation. But this was another lesson for you. And I love talking to people who are interested in networking, because they are a really great digital marketing agency. You know, they earn a few $1 million revenue each year. There's a team of them. But when COVID hit, right, their clients were pulling the pin and putting a pause on digital marketing spend. And no amount of digital advertising was going to sell them what they made through us as a partnership with the relationships. So when they brought the product to us and then we presented that and sold that to our network who already knew, liked and trusted us, then we were able to make the revenue. And we couldn't have done it without their product, but also no amount of advertising or ads or great landing pages or funnels could have generated them that amount of revenue in that time. So that comes down to the relationships that we form in our business life. And that was a great lesson for me, and one I like to share. But yeah, the people we know and the relationships, it always comes back to that.
Fantastic. I love that. I love that. Are you the smartest person in the room?